May I take this opportunity to say more about MOE's Character and Citizenship Education, or CCE, lesson on the Israel-Hamas conflict, building on what I have said in my interview with the media last week. This issue has stirred strong emotions amongst many. It is also reflected in the range of PQs filed by members for upcoming sittings. The key questions raised were: why conduct such a lesson? Can MOE teach such a complex and emotive issue effectively? Could MOE have supported our teachers better? What are the learning points from this episode? Chair, CCE is an established and integral part of the holistic education we provide to all our students. We teach CCE in schools because we know how important, yet how difficult it is to build our national identity amidst the larger forces, including civilizational and religious forces that our multi-racial, multi-religious society is subject to. We know how global and social media, news and fake news, compete every moment to pull our people in different directions, challenging our efforts to maintain national cohesion and harmony. We do not have the luxury of time or a geographical buffer to insulate our people, including and especially our very young. We need to equip our people, starting with our young, with the skills and values to navigate this fast-paced, often divisive and confusing world. The latest escalation of the Israel-Hamas conflict is a stark reminder that external events can affect our people in different ways and even fracture our society if not well managed. Young and old can get into heated conversations, insensitive and disrespectful remarks may be made, misinformation abounds, especially online. Different parties appeal to our emotions to side with their cause. An information war is being fought all around us. We risk being drawn into other people's fights and conflicts. This is why the CCE lessons on contemporary issues often draw from events happening around us to help students better navigate the vagaries of the world. We can neither shelter our children from the world nor keep the world from intruding into their lives. In the case of the CCE lesson on the Israel-Hamas conflict, our aims are for students to, first, help them understand what is going on, express their own views, and manage their own emotions. Second, appreciate diverse perspectives sensitively and respectfully. Third, discern information from different sources. And fourth, to play their part to support racial harmony and social cohesion. Let me emphasize what this CCE lesson is not about. It does not tell students that one party in this conflict is good and the other is evil. It does not impose any particular perspective or interpretation of events. It most certainly does not create a wedge between our students' religious beliefs and their national identity. It is also not meant to bring other people's politics into our schools. I hope all Singaporeans can agree with us on the intent and importance of character and citizenship education. The question, then, is what do we do in schools to achieve these shared objectives, especially when dealing with sensitive issues like this? And what feedback have we obtained so far? For the teachers, by now our teachers have had a few weeks of experience preparing and teaching the package. We have also heard some of their reflections. Some were initially unsure whether they had sufficient content mastery to teach the lesson. Some needed more time to process their own views and feelings about the conflict. And for those who were still uncomfortable and asked to be excused from conducting the lesson, their school leaders supported their requests. By and large, most took on the challenge and carried out their duties professionally because they understood the importance of the task. And we are grateful to them for stepping up despite any initial hesitations. To conduct CCE lessons well, our teachers will require facilitation skills, much more than just content mastery. And this is not an easy task. For students, some schools which have conducted CCE lessons have also shared feedback from their students. A primary 6 student said, "We should pray for all the innocent victims of the war and cherish the harmony and peace we have in Singapore." In one secondary school, some students asked their teachers for more information on why the war started in the first place and why the leaders on both sides could not come to a resolution. many of them expressed sadness about the tragic situation. A JC1 student said the CCE lesson was beneficial, as the information presented did not force him to agree on a certain stand on the matter, but gave him the space to have his thoughts and considerations towards the issue. Some students also asked thoughtful questions like, is there a way out of this circle of violence and hatred? And what else can we do to help? These student voices reflect the intent and learning objectives of the CCE lesson, which I described earlier. We have also received much feedback from parents and other stakeholders. Some thought the issue was too difficult for primary 5 and 6 students to understand. Some questioned why some slides seem to focus only on the more recent events in the long history of the conflict. Others wonder if the historical context of the conflict was properly emphasized in this CCE lesson. Yet others felt that we should give our students more information on Singapore's position on the Israel-Palestine issue. We take these concerns and feedback seriously. Some suggested we drop the lesson altogether. But will this be better for our students and society in the long term? If we agree on the intent of CCE, then we must keep striving to improve our delivery. We are fully committed to equipping our teachers to help our children better navigate this complex world. As I shared with the media last week, we will update our materials to address the feedback and ongoing developments. We will also improve our teaching methods based on the experiences gained. Let me elaborate. First, we will customize the lesson material further for students of different age groups. At this point, let me emphasize that this CCE lesson was not meant to teach the Israel-Palestine history or Middle East politics. It is impossible to do so in an hour-long session, and it was never our intention in the first place. For younger students, we will simplify our material even more. Our focus will continue to be on sensitizing our younger ones to the plight of the innocent victims, how they can express sympathy for and empathize with others, and how they can manage their emotions regarding the conflict. For the older students, we will also teach them to be more discerning of different sources of information. For the most mature students, we will update the lesson material based on more recent events and help them better understand Singapore's national interests. Minister Vivian had set out at MFA COS last week some of these recent developments and how Singapore is responding. To reiterate, after the 7 October attack, we said Singapore recognized Israel's right to self-defense. But Israel's military response has gone too far. The catastrophic situation in Gaza demands a humanitarian ceasefire to alleviate the suffering of the civilian victims and to enable humanitarian assistance to reach them immediately. We will also explain to our students Singapore's principled position on the Israel-Palestine issue over the decades, and this is for the older students, such as how Singapore had voted in favor of calling for an immediate ceasefire at international platforms, how we have contributed to capacity building efforts to the Palestinian Authority, and how we will continue doing our part to advance international efforts towards reaching a two-state solution at the UN. We will certainly continue to reflect the diversity of views from our community within our lesson material, and it is a key learning objective for our students to understand how to manage differences and diversity with respect and sensitivity. To the extent possible, we will also design the lesson material to avoid parts being taken out of context selectively. Second, beyond updating the material, we will also better equip our teachers to engage their students in this CCE lesson. For teachers who would like the extra support, we will organize extra CCE workshops for them to go through the lesson plans with specialists and experienced teachers. Where appropriate, we will involve resource persons to assist with these workshops. This is in addition to the current suite of teachers' preparations within schools. Given the diversity of backgrounds and experiences of our teachers, some schools have adopted useful approaches like organizing their teachers in teams to conduct the CCE lesson, which enhances the quality of delivery. For example, Jurongville Secondary School carried out this lesson with a pair of teachers. One teacher focused on facilitating the discussion in class, while the other looked out for the emotional well-being of students. In Yishun Innova JC, the history teacher taught a large group shared briefing on the historical context of the conflict before students discussed the issue further in smaller groups facilitated by their CCE teacher. For a sensitive topic like the Israel-Hamas conflict, having teachers from different backgrounds and faiths to conduct the lesson together is also a powerful example to our students of how, while we can have different beliefs, we can come together as Singaporeans to discuss complex issues sensitively and respectfully. We are also making broader efforts to train teachers to teach CCE. Last May, we set up the Singapore Centre for CCE at the National Institute of Education to support professional development of educators in CCE. There is a core of specialized CCE teachers in the teaching fraternity who are available to mentor their colleagues, especially those that touch on sensitive topics. Speak with your school leaders who will support you in carrying out your professional duties. For us at MOE, there were other useful learning points from this episode. First learning point, we cannot underestimate the damage that misrepresentation can cause. Let me cite an example. Some online commentators selectively picked out one slide out of many in an MOE lesson deck, which was circulated last week, asserting that the schools were telling the students the situation in Israel and Gaza only started 7 October 2023. This insinuated that MOE was pro-Israel and that we characterized one side as the aggressor and the other side as victim. This riled up many, but actually the words on the said slide were events since 7 October, and it came after a slide that emphasized the long, complex, and often violent history of conflict in the region. In addition, MOE had provided background material on historical developments behind the conflict to help teachers better understand the context. This was meant to be shared with students who wished for more information on the history rather than for the teacher to teach history to the whole class, which is not the learning objective of this CCE lesson. This is indeed a sobering reminder that in the online space, it is not always easy to separate those who question the material with well-meaning intentions from those who join the fray with ulterior intent to stir up negative emotions on an already sensitive topic. Our second learning point, managing differences respectfully is still a work in progress. By and large, Singaporeans express our views in a civil and respectful way. Still, some of the online vitriol and anger towards MOE and our teachers from this episode reminds us that we cannot take this for granted. Some educators have received rude and abusive comments. We have come across one picture of an educator being circulated online. The caption contained a racial slur, insulting her as an uneducated person of her ethnicity, and encourage others to make this educator's photo go viral online. MOE takes this very seriously. While we may disagree on issues, personal attacks and racial slurs against fellow Singaporeans cannot be condoned. We have to be positive role models for our children. MOE will investigate all instances of abuse, harassment, or threats against our educators. They have MOE's full support and the full protection of the law. Our third learning point. We must be very watchful for potential external interference. Some external online parties have taken an active interest in our discussions. Some show no hesitation to join in the discussions and add their comments to incite anger and unhappiness. Yet others try to play on Singaporeans' conscience to adopt their positions. It is not difficult to guess the agenda of these external parties. We have to be careful to not fall prey to their attempts to rile up our people and undermine our cohesion. Fourth learning point. Our unity depends on sustained commitment and effort. Last week, Tuan Maliki and I met more than 300 school principals again to listen to their feedback since we last discussed the issue with them in January. Many of them shared the challenges they encountered and how they overcome them. It has certainly not been an easy time for our teachers and principals. In the light of this episode and criticisms against our schools and teachers, we discussed frankly, should we continue teaching this CCE lesson? Given that some people have suggested that we should abandon it since it's so difficult and sensitive, is it still worth doing it? In response, many of my principals shared this. We asked ourselves, how can we allow the seeds of hatred and distrust to be planted in our next generation? How can we allow our society to be split by this and other similar issues? When we look back in years to come, would we have discharged our duty as educators if our people became more divided? unable to respond as one, view each other with suspicion, or become unable to manage differences or diversity respectfully and sensitively. What is our responsibility as educators? We ask ourselves the toughest two questions. If not us, who? If not now, when? I drew comfort and confidence from their conviction. Indeed, it is our duty to guide the next generation well, help them develop good character and values, and build a sound foundation for them to thrive in the future. Education is a serious responsibility. My MOE colleagues and I feel the weight of our mission. We are determined to discharge our duty and do right by our students. I thank all principals and teachers for standing firm by their convictions despite the challenges and the diversity of their beliefs. And I extend my deepest gratitude to all who have given us your feedback. We will continue to work with you all as partners in education so that we can plant the seeds of hope and harmony in the next generation. This remains a work in progress, and we are fully committed to keep it on improving. Our teachers and principals asked if they would have the public support in this important yet challenging task. I gave them my full support. I hope members of this House and the public will do too. Let us stand united as Singaporeans to support this important yet challenging effort for the sake of our children and the future of Singapore.